different 4, 6, 8 methods of communicating input-output organization. Okay. So let us start with an first topic, that is peripheral devices. So what are input devices? Everybody know that it is keyboard and optical input-output devices, magnetic input devices, and screen input devices, analog input devices. And we have the output devices: card puncher, paper tape puncher, CRT, printer, plotter, and analog voice. So these are the different kinds of input devices and output devices. Keyboard, optical input devices, which can be categorized in different 5 forms: card reader, paper tape reader. Then we have barcode reader. Everybody knows in each and every shop you are visiting in near to your locations. We have barcode reader. Now in your mobile phone also we have barcode scanner, and digitizer also, which is used as an input device to catch the information from the particular data you want to scan. An optical mark reader, so you can directly write on the computer monitor or screen. So that will be useful for transmitting the input. What are the input you will be using to feed into the computer? So keyboard is directly we are using, and one of the very good example for optical input device: card reader, paper tape reader, barcode reader, then digitizer, then optical mark reader. So apart from the another thing, we have the another concept: magnetic input device. So everybody know we have a magnetic pen, which is widely used in touch screens. So that is called as or maybe you can use a video tape or audio tape recorder. So we have the magnetic strip readers, which is storing the some information in the ATM cards or credit cards. We have this magnetic strip reader, which will be having your data, ATM card number, credit card number. All the information can be stored in the magnetic input device, and which will be used for transmitting the input from source to the destination. And screen input device, so directly you can touch. So before that we have different 3 kinds. One is keyboard, optical, okay, and magnetic. So we have direct interface, HCA, human computer interaction. That you don't need of any input device such as keyboard or card reader or barcode reader, okay, or some kind of optical reader. So only you need just a touch, just a touch and feel. So you need a screen. Only you need a screen where it have touch activated. Your smartphones, your touch screen TV, your touch screen laptop, your touch screen computers. Okay, everything directly you can touch and switch on and switch off. Everything is possible in a touch screen, light pen, and mouse. Okay. So we have the another kind is called as analog input device. That is a traditional method which is used by the very good example, traditional mouse. Yeah, there will be a ball inside. That is the bottom of the mouse where you can transmit analog digital signal and into digital. So it will be converting analog signal into digital signal. So that is the concept behind how input devices are being used for the processing of data or information. Apart from that, we have another part that is called as output devices. So card puncher, paper tape puncher, CRT, okay, printer, and which is having a direct impact like inkjet, and without impact we have laser printer, okay, and platters, analog, and voice recognition inputs. These are widely we are using for conducting Zoom classes or meeting or voice messages. Okay, so some of these examples widely used for checking your outputs. Okay, whether what the input is given using the card reader, or we can get the output from card puncher. Okay, so that output can be given by card reader, and card puncher can recognize. So what you have to done, you have to do, what is the exact output should be displayed in the screen. So that is decided by card puncher and paper tape puncher. Okay. Once you do this, you can able to retrieve the information via CRT. So cathode ray tube, okay, printer, plotter, and analog device. Okay. So these are called as peripheral devices in a computer organization. Okay. If you want to know about CO, okay, the major part of CO is called as input output organization. How you can feed the input to the computer, and how you can get the data out from the computer. Okay, without this you cannot do anything. So anything you want to feed the data. So now everything become touch. Earlier people used to have these devices. Keyboard is one of the, now we have wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, everything become wireless. Okay. Earlier we have only analog input devices, analog keyboard, converting input into digital, and analog mouse converting your movement into digital. There is a physical world objects into digital world objects. Okay, and we have the another type that is called as optical mouse. These days we are using optical mouse, the card readers, everywhere we are using these technology. Okay. Digitizer, barcode reader, okay. So everything is become technology. We are CR code reader, so everything is having widely feeding the input, and whatever the feeded input can be in the form of voice, analog, plotter, and printer is widely used for taking the printouts. And card puncher, paper tape puncher, and CRT monitors. These are widely used for recognize how these can be displaying output for the user. Okay. So this is what the exact concept behind the peripheral devices, right? So now we'll go to the next concept, that is interfaces. So what is interface? So connection between input to output. If I want to watch some TV in the laptop or my computer, I need a TV tuner card. So that is called as interface. And if I want to connect some Wi-Fi device, I need some Wi-Fi routers to connect the interface with the computer to get my internet connectivity. So what are the devices which is used for do some particular task and can be connected with the computer? That is called as interface. Okay, we can connect external devices into the computer, okay, because the computer is organized to receive the input as well as sending the output. Okay, provides a method for transferring information between internal storage such as memory and CPU register, and also it transmitting the information from external input output devices. Okay, that is called as IO interfaces. Resolves the difference between the computer and peripheral devices. So peripherals, already we discussed maximum input output, that are called as electromechanical devices. We need the support of electronics, and we need a mechanism to operate that electronic devices. So that's why it is called as electromechanical devices, peripherals, right? And we have the another concept that is called as electronic devices. All the peripherals are called as electromechanical, and all the main processing unit, CPU or memory, your hard disk, your CD, your USB. So everything is called as your micro and your fridge, refrigerator, AC. So everything is called as electronic device. So there is a difference between the devices which you are using, supporting devices which input output like keyboard and optical mouse are called as electromechanical, and the devices which is used for processing your data with electronically, that is electronic and communication, this device which is used for communication purpose, that is called as electronic device. And apart from that, we have another important concept that is called as data transfer rate, DTR. Each and every uh, thing transmitter when you are using computer or internet, we can check. So what is the, they may ask what is the data transfer rate. So 1.5 gig or 200 mbps. Okay, so these words you can hear for data transfer, but this will decide the speed. Peripherals usually slower, so input and output is always slow. Okay, and which is faster, that is processing unit, your processor or memory. So they are always faster than the peripherals. Okay, some kind of synchronization mechanism may be needed to increase the speed. So when you want to purchase the mobile phone, you will check only what is the processor. Maybe it's a Snapdragon 687 series, or maybe it's in computer we used to say it is i3, i5, or i7. And next point you will discuss about RAM, so memory. So you need 2 GB RAM or 6 GB RAM or 8 GB RAM or 12 GB RAM. Okay. So what are these which is used for mainly focusing on data transfer rate. The main focus is how fast I will receive the data and how fast I will transmit the data. So that is the concept behind data transfer rate, DTR. So please remember, so DTR widely slower in peripheral devices, that means input output, and more faster in CPU, your microprocessor, and memory. Okay, unit of information in peripherals, we used to say it is byte, and CPU or memory, we already discussed, it is word. Okay, bit word, either 0 or 1. So peripheral device, it's we used to say it is 1 by 10 bytes or 1 gigabyte, 1 megabyte. Okay, so 1028 bytes is called as 1 megabyte. Similarly, 1028 megabyte is called as 1 gigabyte, okay, and continuously terabyte, okay, and petabytes. Okay. These are widely used for calculating unit in computer science engineering. You go for EB, that is unity is different. Every month you have to pay the EB bill based upon the reading which is available in the meter to calculate the EB meter. So, but in computer we used to calculate the units in bytes for peripheral device, and CPU or memory word, so 1 bit word, 2 bit word, 0 or 1, either 0 or 1. Okay, an operating mode, peripheral is autonomous and asynchronous mode, and CPU or memory is synchronous. Okay, both way communication, and peripheral is a single way communication. Okay, so there is a difference between synchronous and asynchronous. There is option in your laptop or a mobile phone. We have sync operation, which we used to connect your Gmail account or Yahoo account. Always 24/7 you can sync your WhatsApp with your Google Play Store or Google Drive to store the data in cloud. Okay, so synchronous means the CPU or memory always synced in different location. You can store your data in cloud, you can store your data in hard disk also. There is two-way communication. Okay, but autonomous and asynchronous, take your keyboard, it is autonomous. You can disconnect or you can connect. Mouse, you can disconnect or you can connect. It is asynchronous. Okay, one at a time. So you send the information and you will receive the output. So one at a time, that is called as asynchronous communication. So this is the concept behind interfaces and input output organizations. So what we discussed today is the concept peripheral devices and input output interfaces. So tomorrow we'll discuss about the next concept, that is called as asynchronous data transfer. Okay, and deeply how these interface modules are widely used for controlling data processing, DTR, how this data processing is done. So we'll discuss in tomorrow class. Okay, so what we discussed today is peripheral devices and interfaces. Okay. So any doubt you can please ask me. Okay. And if you have more queries, please go and refine. The materials are already available in our Google Classroom. I will upload some other materials for Unit 3 also. Please read it. If you want to process the data, you need a computation or computational intelligence or an intelligence system which will act like human and think like human and act rationally, think rationally. That is called as artificial intelligence. Is working behind the concept of input output organization, that is a computer organization. So this is what we discussed in the previous class about what is peripheral, what is DTR, and what are the concepts behind the units, and how we can calculate the units for peripherals and CPU or memory. Apart from that, we have discussed about the operating modes. We have two modes, synchronous and synchronous, okay, and autonomous. So these are some of the good concept or some of the exciting concept in a computer system. So you must learn, okay, how to operate your computer. Okay. So most probably you people know how to use the computer, but what is happening in the inside of the computer we don't know. Okay. So that's why we need to understand in inside what is happening, input output bus and interface models, processor, and we have input output bus, data address control bus. So the processor is connected to the three different buses. One is data bus, address bus, control bus. So these are the main concept behind the inside of your CPU. Inside CPU, we have the big circuit layer that is running behind the data address control. All the processors are connected these lines. This is something like when you go on bike or bus or in car, in traffic rules you have to follow. So there will be three signals, will be the red, green and yellow. So the red is to stop and we have to wait until the traffic is clear, and green you can go, and another signal you may know, yellow, so go slow. So like that we have the three different controlling element or controlling lines in the computer. For data transmission, we use data bus. For address, where it is located, to find the location, address bus, and control, which is going to control all the processing element, arithmetic, logic unit, control unit, memory unit. Okay, so all these units are controlled in a perfect way. So that is called as the interface. We used to say the parallel lines, data address control. We need an interface. We have keyboard and display interface, then printer interface, then magnetic disk and magnetic tape. Okay, so everything is connected with processor, input output bus. So processor is not directly connected to all the interfaces. There is a in motherboard we have bus, that lines, input output bus lines. From the bus lines we have the connections. Each peripheral has an interface model associated with interface. Decode the device address, device code, decode the command operation and provide signal for the peripheral controller, synchronize the data flow and supervises the transfer rate between peripheral and CPU or memory. So this is called interface. The interface is the communication medium or a connection medium which is going to evolve the connection or decode or encoding, which is used to connect the different devices like a keyboard, printer, magnetic disk, magnetic tape, everything. Okay. So this is a general typical IO instruction you can see at the bottom of the PPT. Opcode, device address, function code, command. Okay. So this command, device address and app code. So these are the three basic elements of how we can connect different types of IO instruction. Okay, so that's why we need to understand. So what is happening in the typical IO instruction? Okay, all the instructions are executing by using opcode. Each and every instruction have the opcode. So these opcode is widely used for managing the device address, function code, and command. Okay. Why these interfaces are used in the processor line? To connect all kind of devices. If you have USB, if you have printer, if you have magnetic tape, if you have pen, any kind of cameras or anything you want to connect in the input output interface module, so then we can use this kind of computer organization concept. So connection of input output bus, we have the major concept is three different lines. Basically, one more line we have sense lines. Okay, what is sense line? And data lines, function code lines, device address lines. Okay. So that is called as how we are going to connect connect the different types of CPU input output bus that will be having different lines. Okay, one is the part of we are having the instruction. So another thing have the part of accumulator, and another thing where the another important part is control. So control is sensing. Yes, I have connected pen drive to the computer. Yes, I have connected camera to the computer or printer to the computer. So whatever you want to connect with the computer, that will be sensed by the connection of input output bus. Okay. And data lines, which is widely used for controlling the accumulator. Okay. The accumulator everybody know, so it is a concept behind how the data is transmitted or adding multiple device. You can see in the previous slide we have processor. So all the processor performance will be managed by the RAM, okay, the speed and control. So the control is very important for the processor to transmit the information from source to destination. Okay, so that's why we need a CPU. This is a CPU part. Whatever we are seeing is CPU part. We have sense lines, data lines, function codes, and device address lines. Okay, so the device address have the unique code for each and every device. Any device you are connecting to the computer. For example, if you want to connect a pen drive, the pen drive have unique address present in the memory location. We cannot see directly. Okay, only thing, if you want to check, you can check in BIOS RAM, basic input output system, where you can able to know how the informations are stored. Okay, so where these are computer understanding purpose. Okay, whatever we are learning today. So this total architecture and design is widely used for transmitting the information between input output bus and connection of IO bus. Okay, the connection of IO bus to the one interface have the buffer register, interface logic, and status register. Okay, input output bus we have another part of connection. We have the interface logic. In the interface logic, we have output peripheral device and controller. So you can see the output peripheral device and controller. That is a main part of. So everything is a chip. So this chip have the interface logic. Okay. Input output bus, which is having the gates, AND gates, NAND gates, everything, and data lines, which is having the buffer register. This is temporary memory. Why we need this temporary memory? To allow the further or remaining connections for the computer or peripheral devices which you want to connect the computer, so which have the peripheral register. Whatever the devices you are connected to the computer will have a register. Okay, this register will store all the information, which is pen drive, which is printer, which is speaker, which is monitor. So everything have the peripheral, the information of the devices, peripheral devices, which will be stored in the peripheral register. So that's why it is called as the output peripheral devices and controller. Okay, connection of IO input output bus to the one interface and multiple interface. Okay. So this is the exact concept behind how we can transmit the information between source to destination. Maybe transmitting the information from your keyboard to So the mouse you are using or the keyboard which you are using having the input part. How this input part is working is based upon the connections you made. If you make the connections for keyboard and you have to install the drivers, so the drivers will have the logic of command decoder. Okay, the command decoder will be having the function of converting your keyboard input ASCII code. Each and every letters have the ASCII code, American Standard Code for Information and Interchange. So that's why this part particularly need a perfections of connecting. Literally, you want to connect a keyboard or a mouse or a USB or a pen drive or printer. Anything have the logic of transmitting the information from source to destination. Any source will reach the destination, so that is called output. Got it? So one part is connection of input output bus to the CPU. Okay. Have the 4 lines: sense lines, data lines, function code lines. Another part is connection of input output bus to one interface. Okay. Any kind of interface we are already we saw. So this interface you take keyboard. So assume that this is keyboard interface, or maybe printer or a magnetic disk or maybe a magnetic tape. Okay. All these interfaces have the opcode, device address, function code. Okay. So that will transmit the data from source to destination. Okay. Assume that this is keyboard interface. Keyboard interface will have input output bus logic gates, and keyboard interface will have command decoder, and keyboard interface will have the logic. Okay. What is to be received and what is to be produced. Okay. So receiving and transmitting, exact word we can say. So receive, suppose you type A or B letters in the keyboard, immediately it will go to the command decoder. Okay. So what the particular person is have pressed A letter, how to produce it in the screen. Of course, it is not exactly we pressed A for a computer. Assume that A is 1001. So now you can able to see in the monitor. Okay. So tomorrow we'll discuss another interesting concept